Good morning. My name is Steve Koch, and I'm very excited to be here today to talk to you about one of my favorite subjects, the customer experience. I believe that customer experience will be key to the success of all organizations moving forward, and I'm going to spend some time today telling you why and give you some ways that you can help your organization create a better experience for your customers. But let's start that conversation by watching a couple of videos.
What shall I do to put myself by your side? What shall I do to put myself along by your side?
You and me, we go together naturally. Don't you think that we make a pretty good team?
So those really tug at the heartstrings, don't they? I mean, as humans, we're inherently drawn to kind experiences. So it's a great message in that way, but it's also grounded in science and research. Because research has shown over the last few years that when you can add kindness and compassion and those types of elements to healthcare, outcomes actually improve. People get better faster. So in general, for Dignity Health, you would think this is a great message, that they're providing an experience that people are going to be drawn to. So let's find out how they're living out to that experience. And you know, as you look through some of these comments and some of the thoughts that people have, the feedback they're providing, you see that it's not quite living up to what we saw in those videos. We see notes about long lines. We see notes about assembly line care, people talking about not getting the personalized care that they thought they had. And almost every review we see here calls out that message of human kindness. The expectation has been set, it's what people want, but it's not being delivered. And as a result, the perception of their experience with Dignity Health is going to change, and it's not going to be good. And so it's important to note that the messages that you send are great, but if you can't deliver on the experience, your organization may not reach the goals it wants to. Because 75% of the perception of your organization is based on the actual experience you have. It's not the logos, it's not the ads, it's not the signage, it's not the great videos like we just watched for Dignity Health. It's the actual experience, touch point by touch point, that you provide to your customers. I really love this quote because it sums it up very well. We don't define our brands, and we have to remember that. Our customers define our brands based on their experience, touch point by touch point. Those experiences determine how they're going to perceive your brand and your organization, and really whether or not they'll do business with you. Because customers tell us that the products and services are really today, they're just table stakes. The experience that they have is just as important as whatever product or service they're purchasing from you. And so 4 in 5 customers say that, and over half of customers say that they have switched brands, moved on to a competitor because they had a better experience. Now think about your competitors. Are they providing a better experience than you? Are you in danger of losing customers to them? And it's not just business to consumer organizations. Business buyers say that when they're in the purchasing process, when they're engaging in a B2B organization, they want the exact same experience that they have when they purchase from a consumer experience. Now, I may have some good news here for you, depending on how you look at it. But there's opportunity if you're in the B2B world, because only 25% of business buyers today say they're satisfied with the experience. So a quick improvement on your customer experience can vault you far ahead of your competition. But so far we've talked about some ideas around what people are telling us, how they're switching. You might consider that anecdotal. Well, Harvard Business Review wanted to ask the question, what does this really mean to revenue? What does the customer experience mean to your business and the bottom line? So they looked at two organizations. One was a transactional-based organization. The other, a subscription-based organization. And they were able to get access into their sales records, into their experience records, because of course, they're Harvard. And they were able to look at their customer experience at a certain point in time and then follow those customers for the next year to determine how their experience, good or bad, determined their spending habits. So the results were interesting. First, the transactional business. And as we all know, transaction businesses are looking towards bringing people in. They want to increase the amount that people purchase, and they want to increase the frequency at which they purchase. So for the transactional businesses, they found that those who had the highest experience scores over the next year spent 140% more than those who had low experience scores. Meanwhile, for the subscription-based business, those businesses like software as a service, maybe you sign a year-long contract, they want people to be retained with that organization, and they're looking to upsell and cross-sell. They found that those who had the worst experiences, that had poor customer experiences, they were likely to only stay members or keep their subscription for about a year. Meanwhile, those who had the best experiences remained members for an average of 6 years. It's a pretty significant difference, right? Think about the revenue in those two situations and how that can make a difference in your year or your organization's success. So, I'm not going to surprise you when I tell you that over 80% of leaders today say that they are focused on delivering a better customer experience. It makes sense. They see the same numbers we do, and they recognize that it's going to be a competitive advantage. But what might be surprising to you is that overall customer experience scores fell between 2016 and 2017. Forrester Research does a big study, the largest that there is, around customer experience, and they look at brands all over the country and all over the world. And they found that between 2016 and 2017, not only did more brands get worse at customer experience than those who got better, but also the losses were bigger than the gains. How does that happen, right? How do we get to a point where we know how important the customer experience is, we're putting efforts towards it, yet it gets worse? Well, at Cast Hue, we think that there are two key gaps in most organizations' customer experience strategy that's causing this challenge. The first is around competition, and the second is around the emotional customer experience. I'm going to talk about both, but I'm going to start talking about competition. Because you see, in customer experience, competition is not just focused on your category, not just your direct competitors. In customer experience, you're competing with every organization that your customers experience every day. So, going back to our friends at Dignity Health for a moment, they're not just competing against Cleveland Clinic, the Mayo Clinic, and Banner Health, and hospital systems like that. They're competing against the experiences their customers and patients have with brands like USAA, Lexus, Nordstrom, Zappos, Disney, and Domino's. Does Domino's surprise you? Domino's is very interesting. See, in 2009, Domino's was basically at the bottom of the barrel. There was a national taste test of consumer preferences. Domino's finished dead last. Their stock was trading at $9. So they brought in a new CEO, and that CEO's core focus was to improve the customer experience. That was his number one strategy. Today, Domino's is the second largest pizza chain in the world, and their stock is trading at $275. Now think about that. Since 2009, the Domino's pizza stock has outperformed Amazon, Google, Apple, and almost any blue chip stock you could think of. It's pretty incredible. So how did they do it? Well, they started with what they called the pizza turnaround, and you may remember this campaign from a few years ago. They basically came out and said, you know what, you're right, our pizza's not that good, and we're going to reformulate everything. And they've had a lot of initiatives since then that have been very successful, but I think the one that stands out to me the most is the pizza tracker. Have you seen this? If you order a pizza online or via mobile, you're able to track your pizza from when it's being prepped to when it goes in the oven, when it comes out of the oven, goes into the delivery car or vehicle, and know when it's going to arrive at your house. It's a really cool thing. And not only is it cool that it gives transparency into Domino's operations, but more importantly, it brings peace of mind to these hungry, hungry people who are waiting for their pizzas. And peace of mind is a pretty incredible emotion. Think of every person who got together and worked with your business, had peace of mind. If their emotion was peace of mind after engaging with you, how successful would you be? We'll talk more about emotions in a moment. But the thing I want to leave you about the Domino's Pizza Tracker is that if you don't think that something like the Pizza Tracker affects the expectations of your customers, you're wrong. We do workshops all over the country talking to people about their customer experiences. And I can't tell you how many times we hear directly from customers, hey, if Domino's could tell me when my pizza is going to arrive, why can't you tell me when the cable guy is going to get here? Or if Domino's could tell me when my pizza is coming out of the oven, why can't you tell me how long it's going to be until my tow truck gets here? If Domino's could tell me when my pizza is going to get here, why can't you tell me, fill in the blank? It's set the expectations. And something else that's setting the expectations is from Disney. You may have seen this. It's at Disney World. It's called the Magic Band. And the Magic Band is great because not only is it the key to your room, it's your ticket to the park. It allows you to pre-order food at any restaurant at Disney. And then when you get there, you can sit wherever you want. Your server will find you. They'll call you by name and they'll bring you your food. If you input your favorite characters, those characters will find you and greet your children by name. And if you input your favorite rides, it will alert you when those rides have shorter lines and you're nearby, so you could take advantage of that. You could pay for everything you need with the Magic Band, so you don't even need to bring your wallet to the park. This innovation came about because the Disney folks looked at their customer experience and they said, how can we get people into the experience faster? How can we take all of the friction, all of the barriers out of our experience so people could start doing what they want to?
Hi, I'll take a large coffee and leave room, please.
That's $3.26. $3.26.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Oh. There you go.
Next. Hi. Hi, can I help you?
Oh, yes, two, please. Oh, you know. There you go.
Oh, I don't, what is that?
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Once you've experienced My Magic Plus at Walt Disney World Resort, you'll want to use it everywhere.
This is going to be awesome.
So I love this video because not only does it do a great job of really communicating all the benefits of the Magic Band, but it also makes my point for me. It shows you that when people have exceptional experiences, they're going to expect those experiences no matter where they are across all of their interactions. Now, the next thing we want to talk about is emotion. And emotion's an interesting thing, right? Because we always think that people make decisions based on rational reasons. In fact, we probably all think that we make decisions based on rational reasons. But the reality is that the emotional mind makes almost all of our decisions for us, because the emotional mind works about 1,000 times faster than our rational mind. And as a result, that emotional mind is making decisions for us, and the rational mind is just trying to catch up and validate them. But I feel like the emotions of people are often ignored when it comes to customer experience design. Oftentimes, customer experience design is too focused on rational elements like process and efficiency and ease. Meanwhile, we need to think about how people feel. This quote from Maya Angelou really sums it up. People don't remember every single experience they have with you. They can't remember every bit of information, but they do remember how you made them feel. And that's truly important. You know, when Forrester was looking at the customer experience over the last year, they really focused in on emotion because they too saw how important it was. And they dug deep, and it was really interesting what they found. The organizations that had the best customer experience scores averaged 17 positive emotions for every negative emotion. Meanwhile, the laggards in customer experience, those who had the very lowest scores, averaged only 2 positive emotions for every negative emotion. Think about that. Think about your business. How many positive emotions are you providing to your customers? Where do you have opportunities to improve that? It's a good thing to think about because emotion has emerged as the #1 indicator of loyalty. It's crazy. It's the #1 indicator of loyalty across almost every industry, and it beats satisfaction as an indicator. Ease, efficiency, some of those things that we always talk about. It's emotion. If people have an emotionally strong experience with your organization, they're going to come back. And in fact, organizations that have really been successful optimizing the emotional experience have found that their customers are 3 times more likely to repurchase and recommend. Again, what else do we want, right? If our customers are repurchasing from us and recommending us to their friends and family members and peers, there's not much more we're going to need. We're going to have a successful year. So, my point is this. When you're thinking about customer experience, don't forget the emotional element. It's key to your success. So, at this point, we might be saying, great talk, Steve. Never really knew that about Domino's, and now I want to go to Disney. But what's the point? Well, my point is this. As I said earlier, I believe that customer experience is going to be a key differentiator for brands moving forward. Competition has gone beyond things like awareness and acquisition. It is all about the customer experience. And as we saw from the Forrester research, there's not many winners right now. So I believe for all of us at this conference, we have an opportunity to bring some customer experience strategy to our organizations, and we can help make a difference. It's an opportunity to differentiate not only your organization, but also yourself. So in that vein, I'd like to share 3 thoughts, 3 steps that you can take to develop a better customer experience for your organization. And the first is about measuring and understand your current holistic and emotional experience. And to do this, you must talk to your customers. You're going to get some insights from things like surveys, comment cards, things of that nature. But the only way to get to the insights and the context you need to make a significant improvement on your experience is by talking to people. You know, part of what we do is we do journey mapping workshops with our clients. So we bring our clients' customers together. They map every touch point of interaction they have with an organization. They talk about what went right, what went wrong, what their emotions were, and we turn that into a map. This is an example of a customer journey map. And we can look at this and we can start to identify gaps in the experience. Where are we not meeting the expectations of our customers? And that lets us know what our opportunities are for improvement. Now you may look at this and say, this is a complex infographic. Might be a little bit too much for me on top of all of my other job responsibilities. And it doesn't have to be this complex. In fact, it could be really easy because it's just about talking to your customers. So talk to your customers about different phases of how they interact with you. For instance, how did they become aware of you? How did they learn about you? Or as they were going through the consideration phase, who else did they talk to? Why did they choose you? Better yet, talk to some people who didn't choose you and find out why. As they prepare to interact with you, what's it like to make an appointment? Are they able to find you easily? Do they know what to do? And at the prime time, when they're engaging with you, what's that like? What did they like? What did they not like? How did you make them feel? Finally, did they continue to do business with you? If so, why? If not, why not? Find out all of their thoughts, and you're going to start to see some patterns. Really, if you talk to maybe 10 or 15 people and ask them a couple questions around each of these phases, patterns will emerge. You'll start to see some themes, and you'll start to understand what your best opportunities are for improvement. And that's what takes you to the next step. Creating better experiences across all touch points. By talking to your customers, you're going to know what some of your best opportunities are to improve, what some of those touch points are that you can really improve. And so your next step then is to develop new experiences. Now, in talking to your customers, you've probably come up with some ideas already based on their feedback. And they've probably given you some ideas themselves. But no matter how you do it, look at those key touch points, talk to your fellow employees, and develop some new experiences, but then test them. That's the key. Keep your customers involved. What would you think if I did this when you arrived? What would you think if our website looked like this? There's a lot of different ways you could test ideas, and they don't have to be high tech. Just talking about them, you'll get some feedback to help you refine and develop better experiences. Finally, there is no finish line in customer experience. Today's innovation is going to be tomorrow's table stakes. So it's very important that you benchmark, measure, and continuously improve. Now again, that might seem something like that's very complex, but it doesn't have to be. It really could be as simple as this graphic. This refers to NPS, or the Net Promoter Score. And the Net Promoter Score is based upon one question. How likely are you to recommend our product or service to your friends or family members? It's a great question because hopefully none of us are going to recommend a poor service to our friends or family members. So it should measure some realistic feelings that our customers have for us. And so if you ask that question and ask people how likely they are on a scale of 1 to 10, it helps you get to your NPS score. So if people answer 9 or 10, they're promoters. They're very likely to do business with you continuously, and they're happy with the experience. But if they answer 6 or less, those are detractors. They're not having a great experience. You're not really meeting their expectations. And finally, the 7s and 8s are passives. Those can go either way, and they are an opportunity to raise to promoters. But the way the score is calculated is you take your promoters, the percentage of promoters that you have, and you subtract your percentage of detractors. And that gives you your Net Promoter Score. Now, that score can be anywhere from negative 100 to 100. You want to stay in the positive, and to be truthful, most organizations that are successful are getting close to 50. But here's a few examples of scores to give you an idea of where some brands that you're familiar with are. And what's cool about Net Promoter Score is that there's a ton of information on the internet and elsewhere that can help you benchmark for your industry. Some industries have higher benchmarks than others. So I'd encourage you to look into this, find out what the benchmark is for your industry, and then use that to set a goal for your company and start finding out how you're doing in this score. And the last part of the NPS process is the last part of the question, and I think this is really important. Why? This gives you the context. Going back to what we talked about before, talking to customers, this serves as a proxy for that as you continue to measure. If you get verbatims, comments from your customers telling you why things are going well, why they're not, you could start looking at those. Maybe you review them once a week, once a month, and you start mapping them to some of the improvements you made to see if those are working. Or you may start to identify new themes and new trends that can help you identify new opportunities for improvement. No matter what you do, NPS is a great way to continuously measure the health of your experience. So, hopefully you've gotten a lot out of this presentation and have thought about how you can focus on the customer experience for your organization. And I'd encourage you to do these 3 things. These 3 steps are really crucial to the success of a customer experience. And you don't necessarily have to use all of the tactics that I recommended or gave as examples. But if you follow these steps in general, you will be on the path to improving your customer experience. So thank you so much for your time today. Really enjoyed chatting with you. I'm very excited that Will is coming up next. He's going to talk a little bit more about customer experience and provide more context about how GPS Insight is working within that. And we've been privileged to work closely with GPS Insight over the last year or so as we've talked to over 100 of their customers as we've mapped journeys and created new experiences. And I want to be a resource to you. If you have any questions about the customer experience or anything I've talked about today, please feel free to email me. My email is there on the screen and will be available. Thank you so much.